Hey film friends, I'm Nick Furman. This is Furman on Film. Welcome to the channel. Guys, finally, Dune Part 2. We're venturing back onto the vast sandy expanse of Arrakis. For some reason, this movie kind of reminded me of the time I tried to drain blue Kool-Aid out of gummy worms using only a straw. It wasn't the most successful operation. Sandworms, spice, and surprisingly stylish still suits. And Paul Atreides trying to decide whether to play it cool and roll with the Fremen and his girl Chani, or to take his rightful place as the Mahdi who leads them to paradise. So grab your thumpers, friends. Dum 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 dum. This is Denis Villeneuve's Dune, Part 2. You know, answering the question of what these films are really about thematically takes us in all sorts of different directions. There is, of course, the issue of the spice. What is it? Is it oil? Like the natural resource which everyone is trying to get to power their human endeavors and are willing to go to war over. Yeah, I think there are definitely ecological themes of plundering the planet here. But it's clear that the author Herbert was also making reference to mushrooms and LSD, to the transcendent powers of hallucinogenics. Yet Dune is also wrestling with notions of power and control as they work their way out through politics and religious factions. It's asking whether faith is something to be exploited in gaining influence, or a genuine artifact that can alter the world. And of course, with the ruling houses at the center and the Fremen living on the edges of this society, there is more than a hint of colonialism and imperialism at play here too. Which is, again, all about power. How do we acquire it, and what do we do with it? And this is the final theme that I see running through this saga, the white savior complex. And the thorniness of this issue is all over Paul Atreides' internal dialogue. Does he step up and take the mantle as the Mahdi, knowing that this decision could lead to all-out holy war? Perhaps, fortunately for us, you really have to tease these thoughts out throughout the story. Because though Dune Part 2 plows through a lot of story in 160 minutes, the film's center of gravity is really its spectacle. Director Denis Villeneuve has proven himself to be a master of scale and scope. Whatever else you want to say about this sequel, it is bigger and better than the first film in almost every way. I mean, we are talking about masterfully crafted, ginormous imagery. Then these visuals are surrounded with a sound design that booms and bellows, literally rumbling your chair and shaking your chest. Hans Zimmer's score is as epic and weighty as a heart attack. The film is totally immersive and enveloping and full of amazing gadgetry. Once again, Denis demonstrates this uncanny ability to shape and build worlds out of simple words on a page. He takes Herbert's novel and utilizes some of the objects we've seen in sci-fi tech before, but puts his own unique spin on things so it all feels new. And the action scenes here just completely rip. Paul and Chani blasting ornithopters out of the sky, these giant metallic sheets flying through the air and acting as grenades on impact, another crysknife fight with dire stakes, and a worm riding scene which is no joke, one of the most jaw-dropping visuals I've ever seen. And to me, all of this taken together is a gigantic billboard for two things. One, the power of shooting on location. Please, my big director friends and the studio execs who line their pockets with money, let people shoot real sand and real expanses when they're building worlds. And two, look, I know you're going to hear this a lot, but you really gotta go to the theater to get the full effect here. This is all about sights, sounds, and spectacle. I'll give you a little hint. It ain't the dialogue that's gonna win you over. Finally, you know, it's really hard to make a good second part of a larger film series. One where you're not left wondering, wait, it's over? What comes next? Like, say, the first part of these films on Arrakis. It's tough to have a picture which can stand alone as a work with its own beginning, middle, and end. Looking at you, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. But Dune Part 2 comes from somewhere and is headed somewhere else. It gets the sequel aspect right. Listen, as good as this movie is, I did struggle with aspects of it. Now, I said above that this story really moves in its long runtime, but the trouble is that we're not always certain how much time has passed between events. There is frequent cutting and scenes which begin in media res, so we're just not quite sure of the timing and sequencing of everything. In particular, I think the timeline of events gets elided at key moments, and this really affects the discussion of the Fremen in the north and the south, and the events that unfold in the third act. We're almost on this amusement park ride which is jumping from sequence to sequence and not really properly digesting what's happening on screen. So it's my guess that there was some condensing of scenes in order to keep this runtime under 3 hours. But I think the seams really are left showing. In one sequence, Paul is decrying his ability to ever travel south to the fundamentalists. Yet 5 minutes later, he's like, all right, I'll go south. He tells Chani he's not here to be the Messiah, then addresses the whole Fremen assembly a few moments later. Guys, I'm the Messiah. Sure, I get it. He drank the water and had a trip, but maybe give us something in between. To be fair, I think the clouded motivations is one of the reasons that Dune was always considered to be the unfilmable novel in the first place. But I do think this ends up feeling a little bit like a certain majestic TV series involving dragons, which wrapped up a few years back. That is to say, a tremendous story, well told, which concludes in a way that ultimately makes sense of its characters, but really seems to rush the final scenes to get there. And, okay, I'm probably gonna get absolutely crushed for asking this, but to thine own self be true. Timmy and Zendaya are obviously solid here. Their performances are perfectly cromulent. There is no affectation to their vocal delivery, they just play it straight. And actually, I was kind of impressed with how much I ended up buying Chalamet as a tortured messianic anti-hero. Still, is it possible that there's a different Paul and Chani which even take this series up another level? Whew, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that in the comments. You know, I think I'm just gonna be like Denis here and eschew an excess of words in my conclusion. Look, just go see Dune Part 2 on the biggest screen possible. Why? Well, it might be the best visual, sound, and inventive action exhibition you'll see at the cinema all year. Well, there you have it. The only thing left to discuss is our rating for this picture. FOF gives Dune Part 2 4.3 out of 5 stars. If you enjoyed this review, please let us know by giving us a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. Also, don't forget to visit FurmanOnFilm.com for even more movie content. Thanks for watching. I'm Nick Furman. This is Furman on Film. Stay firm, my friends.